two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee Time Podcast. It's me coming to you every Thursday. Captions joined by Justin Avalos, my good bud, and we're going to be discussing the murder of Breonna Taylor today on the podcast. And the reason why we're like releasing this episode now is I think we were just both so caught up in COVID-19, the Aubrey case, and the George Floyd case that we didn't overlook this one. It's just we're finally getting around to it. And this is a pretty interesting case because there's a lot of moving parts, and with more moving parts comes more complications and all that. And there's a ton of opinions online, ranging from as high as Oprah to LeBron to multiple athletic commissions speaking out, and organizations such as the NBA, the WNBA, and the NFL. So let's get into it with my bud Justin. Give him an applause. What's up, buddy? Again, you do not applaud yourself.
My bad, homie. Dang.
But let's just put this out here right now. Coffee time. I'm having some Four Symatic Lion Mane's coffee. It's delicious. You're having a medium roast over there that you can barely drink, right?
It's from HEB, and I haven't used my coffee pot in a long time, so
Take a swig of it on camera for us, please.
Ow. Oh my god, I can taste the grounds.
Dude, mine is delicious, okay?
Oh, okay. Note to self: prepare better next time.
Just a little better, all right? So, dude, let's like really get into this. I'm gonna read a little things because I just want to get I don't want to have a misstep in my words here. But this is kind of crazy with the Breonna Taylor's death. Like, it happened in March?
Mhm.
March. So let's see here. So it happened March 13th. Louisville's police officers executed a search warrant. It was a no-knock warrant, which is very important in this case, right? The apartment of Miss Taylor here, which she was 26 years old. She was an EMT, and her boyfriend Kenneth Walker also was in bed. Heard some bump in the nights. Got up, had an exchange of words. Fired his gun first, and the police fired several shots. I think it was around 20 rounds. And there's basically four individuals involved on the police side. There's a investigator that actually filed for the warrant and three officers. The investigator, to my understanding, was moved to a different department, and the three officers were put on paid vacation or paid administrative leave while this all just boils down, right? But what really got my attention, man, is I'm a big sports guy. Not the biggest. I love fights and combat sports, but NFL. I'm very interested in how the different commissions are going to run their leagues with this COVID happening. Like, what are you going to do and everything? So the NBA is making a bubble area, and they're going to be playing in Florida, and they're doing scrimmage games right now. And after the scrimmage, LeBron James spoke out about it and was saying they're asking him a ton of questions. How does it feel to be back on the court? This and this and this and that. And basically, his only answer through questions was like, hey, how was that coffee that you're drinking? He's like, I'm standing for Breonna Taylor. The cops need to be arrested. Justice needs to be served. And he basically rinsed and repeated that. And I saw multiple other athletes doing it. Oprah gave Breonna Taylor a cover on a magazine right now, and she's very vocal about this. So let's start with the no-knock warrant. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so the no-knock warrant has always been kind of a weird thing because I don't know. I just don't. I understand the idea a little bit, especially whenever you watch like the shows like Criminal Minds and CIS. Like, you always see them like, oh, that's the perpetrator's house. This is the unsub whatever, and they knock down the door, guns blazing, and like try to find the perpetrator. But of course, in instances like this that happened with Breonna Taylor, it could all go wrong, especially if you don't announce that hey, we're the police, we're coming in, this and that. Because that was my understanding of the whole no-knock warrant thing is you still have to announce like where the police were coming in. Because all a no-knock warrant means is like we don't have to like knock on the door, wait for you to answer, whatever. All you have to do is announce yourself, like, "Hey, police, we're coming in. Go through."
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why it's kind of like a weird thing because in this instance, like, do the different sources I've read and whatever that the boyfriend claimed to not have heard anyone, announce themselves. All he heard was bangs on the door, and then people were in his apartment. And of course, on the cops' side, they're like, "No, we did announce ourselves. We came in," and that's why a lot of people are divided because they're not sure which part to believe. And of course, evidence points one way, and then it points the other way depending on who you ask. So.
Well, it's kind of crazy. I think the reason why people are divided on this is they had the culprit read to rights in custody 2 hours before the the no search warrant was executed. So that's a big misstep. Like that's not just like, hey, we should just move the guy that searched that did all the paperwork for a warrant and put him in a different division. We should let these guys off until everything boils down. Someone needs to pay for this. This is a huge misstep. You already had the culprit in custody, and then
hmm
you execute a warrant, and you end up injuring someone that's rightfully defending himself, right? Like, let's put you in a situation, and I think I can ask a bunch of Texans this. I don't know if no knock warrants are a thing in Texas. I didn't do the research on that, but I know fucking if you're on like Texans land and you're not getting out, they have the right to shoot you on their land, and you're fine. That's
Yeah.
self defense. Now, if
Yeah.
they're in your house as well, that's also ruled as self defense. So if some cops come in, no knock, bump in the night, you hear it, there's like exchanging back and forth. They do not identify as a policeman, but the no knock warrant states like, well, in Louisville, Kentucky, you don't have to identify themselves, which is so weird.
Yeah, like
Like
I
they
won't
don't have to identify themselves.
because even if they are like, there's a lot of videos also like people with
But hey,
fake.
let me finish though.
Oh,
Let me
oh, okay.
finish.
All right, go ahead.
So they don't have to defend themselves, and they don't defend themselves. But let's just put it in Texas, which the same rules apply. Are
hmm
you opening up your? Are you pulling that trigger finger? I would.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Like I'm hearing multiple men yell at me, and they're not identifying themselves. I feel like I'm about to be attacked, and my life is going to be
hmm
taken any
Yeah.
second. So I'm going to defend myself. So I think that's where people are divided here because they had him in custody. They came in and executed the warrant correctly.
hmm
Like we can say that weirdly, but the warrant should have fizzled because they had the culprit in custody,
Yeah.
booked and everything. How
hmm
did the communication not get there?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, like we all have cell phones, they have radios, they have
Yeah.
terminals in their cop cars. What happened, and why hasn't it been spoken? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there should have been communication. Like, we already have the suspect in custody. Go ahead and disregard the order to, execute your no knock warrant, whatever. But yeah, again, it goes based on like where you look at this information because the stuff I read, like, it's showing that the cops did announce themselves. They did identify themselves as officers, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know which to believe, so I'm just gonna go based off of the evidence that is going on, and the fact that if they did identify themselves and the boyfriend did shoot first, then of course the cops have to subdue the subject in order to protect themselves as well as being able to carry on their investigation. Go ahead, Casey. Sorry, my daughter.
That's fine.
Yeah. So it's here in Texas. Yeah, we have the stand your ground clause, the castling doctrine, all that stuff. So if people bang on my door, come in, don't identify themselves, of course I'm gonna have my shotgun, my AR-15, my pistol, whichever weapon I decide to choose that day. I'm gonna have it aimed, ready to go. And at the same time, though, a big rule of thumb with any type of shooter is you have to identify your target. Like that's one of like the main five things is know what your target is. So
Yeah.
if I'm pulling in, because it could be my daughter, I'm not just gonna open fire. Like, if there's people coming in banging and like I have my firearm drawn and I could see that they're police officers, guns down, hands are up. I'm like, okay, just have my weapon here, yada yada. Well, if it's people that I can't identify, if they have no distinguishing marks, or if it's because there has to be something that happened to where you could identify that these are police officers, like lights blinding or like the sirens outside. I'm not sure. I wasn't there,
Well, I
but
don't. If it's a no knock warrant and they do not have to announce themselves and they want to get the jump on someone, I don't think they're gonna have sirens out. You know.
yeah, I mean, sometimes they do have sirens because it depends on the person. Like either like they'll get them real panicked and then they'll surrender, or it
Yeah,
gives them.
but let's not try to add additional variables into
Yeah, yeah,
this.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Let's
So
just like keep it to what we know and what we can
okay,
read, right?
all right, for
So
sure.
what I read that came out was I also read that they did not identify themselves. They identified themselves, but not in a clear manner.
Yeah.
They all, or and there was a report that said that like we all identified themselves. Now, let's say your adrenaline's up, you think you're in danger. Probably these cops, well, most likely these cops didn't know that they had the culprit already, dead to rights and everything like that in custody. So you busted down the door, adrenaline's running, you're shouting, right? Now, if three people are shouting at you or shouting towards or in the vicinity of you, it's really hard to understand them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whatever. So I don't see how they can justify arresting Mr. Kennedy. I mean Mr. Walker, and it's
Yeah,
such
yeah,
a very
he
weird thing.
charged for that at all, like
Like there's
because
so many
in his
stories
defense,
here.
yeah, like because the thing is like in that instance, like that they don't have to announce themselves, like I think that's so stupid. And the whole no knock warrant thing is kind of an outdated thing. Like you should be able to, identify who you are, have the person be like, hey, we have this warrant, this is that, and then allow them to come in.
I feel
Because a
like
lot,
if you have a no knock warrant, or let's say like it has to get to that for that warrant to exist. There
hmm
should be a protocol of surrounding the building, then announcing. I don't think a no knock warrant should be even a thing. It's just so
yeah, yeah,
weird to me.
yeah, and of course, incidents like this can happen with that type of stuff, and I don't know. I think it was just a recipe for disaster, but it's not up to us to decide if no knock warrant is warranted or not. But yeah, it's kind of hard to know which side to take because it's like all hearsay. There's no body cam footage. Like
Why is there no body cam footage?
well,
What's going on with that? I
so I
wanted to
mean,
talk about that as well.
yeah, I mean, I think the reason why there's no body cam footage is because it depends on the police precinct. Like either they have the funding or don't. Because here in Texas, or here in my city, specifically in Corpus, we do have police officers with body cams. But if you go to like a more rural place like Kingsville or like down south, like they don't have the funding for that type of equipment. So everyone's like, "Oh, we need the body cam footage, but we also wanted to fund the police." Like, well, I mean, you need to be able to fund them if you want this body cam footage, so you can have the evidence for yourself and all that
Hold on,
stuff.
we gotta break the wall here. I'm going to look up if Louisville, Kentucky Police Department have body cam footage.
Oh, yeah,
Should it this before, or do they have the funding, or do they operate with body cams?
yeah,
But
yeah.
while I'm doing this, I wanna bring a subject up to you. So
hmm
there's some new information that came out. I think yesterday. I was
Okay.
reading about this that it was first reported that Breonna Taylor was shot dead right there, right? Her boyfriend actually made some statements saying that she was basically breathing and um, fighting for her life
hmm
for 20 minutes, laying on the floor for 20 minutes without help.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy, man. Not rendering assist for a person that
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
shot for 20 minutes. Well, so it said like you could hear for 5 minutes, but it was basically 20 minutes of just attempting to survive on the floor, bleeding out.
yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and whenever I first heard about the story, like the way I heard it was police came in and just shot her, but then of course I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if I want to believe this yet. Then it started expanding. Oh, because of this and this. Like so, the further the story goes, the more investigation we go in, the more like we're understanding. Because again, whenever I first heard the story, it was cops broke in, shot this woman, plain and simple. Now it's oh well, she was with the boyfriend and there was an altercation, that's why they shot. But as far as like them rendering aid, I'm not sure how cops are supposed to respond in situations like that because I'm sure they only get like the basic training because the way I see it is like they're not EMTs, they're not paramedics, they're not doctors, and I'm sure they only get like the very bare minimum any type of basic first aid. I don't know if I'm wrong or not. If there's cops that, look at this or people in the medical field that can answer these questions, please leave it below in the comments. But for them not to render any type of aid, like, okay, we're going to control bleeding while this guy's subdued, that is kind of shady. I'm not sure if they knew at the time, like maybe he came into the living room and she was still in the room, so they didn't know there was anyone else in the house or what happened. But yeah, especially she is actually an EMT, so she could have walked them through the basics of like stopping bleeding at
Wait,
least.
what are you talking about?
So what I'm talking about is like whenever the rendering aid thing, I don't know what police officers are trained to do in that situation. I'm not a police officer. I haven't really looked into that, like if they know how to do that. Because a lot of times they only know the basic first. Like with us, when we were in the military, like we had Gitmo 8 cards to do basic first aid,
Yeah.
but it doesn't cover other stuff. Like it doesn't cover, oh, what happens if you get shot, if someone has a seizure, this and that, like other things that can happen. So I'm wondering if they have that same type of thing to where they're only given like general basic first aid and not things like, oh, if there's a gunshot, how to treat that and do it properly. I don't know.
Well,
So
you got
that's
to think about this. Protect your brother, right?
mm-hmm.
So you are your brother's keeper. I'm pretty sure they operate in that sense where it's like, hey, if your partner gets in trouble, you need to be trained to do certain things.
Yeah.
Patch up knife wounds, bullet wounds. So I'm pretty sure they're in the in a certain sense, like they're trained to apply pressure in a
Yeah.
very educated way to wounds that are caused by bullets, knives, objects, because they put their lives at danger and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, what were you talking about? EMT render aid. She could talk to him. She was shot multiple times and couldn't
Yeah, yeah.
speak.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
I was just wondering like if there was anything like that. Like I don't know the full story about like the amount of times she was shot. All I read was like she was shot whenever there was an exchange of fire and that they didn't render aid because she was there 20 minutes like trying to like not die and then eventually she did pass away. So I was wondering like because if it were me and I knew there was someone else and that she was injured, my first thing is, oh shit, get pressure on there, get an ambulance, stat, render at least that amount of aid. So for them not to do that, I was just wondering like what factors were in their head, or do they just not have the training like a lot of other police officers do? That's the story I want to know.
well,
Like
I
why
think
did
it feel
aid?
once you accept that position to be a defender of the peace and law and
Mhm.
everything, that you just if you don't render aid and protect and
Yeah,
serve, you failed at your job. That's
yeah,
just
because
just
your
how.
first and foremost job is to protect the people, not you know do the law thing. Like your first job should be, oh shit, this person's hurt. We need to help preserve their life, help them to where they can make it to an ambulance and get the care they need instead of, oh well, she's bleeding out. Let's just stand here.
So NBC, CNN, good old Fox, New York Post. I brought up multiple things. They're basically saying the same thing. Louisville police chief fired after officer's body cam found to be off during fatal shooting. It was never turned on.
Why is that such a thing? Like
How's
how
that a thing?
like you're about to enter a premises, you should before there's any type of interaction with someone, you should always have that thing on.
I want to know the guidelines of when you like. Do they have guidelines like, hey man, look, we only got a 16 gig card in
Yeah,
there. Come on,
yeah.
man, turn it
I don't.
on when you just think you need it. That's such a shitty protocol. They like
Yeah.
again with this funding and defunding police. Like if that's the reason why they can't turn their fucking body cam on every time they have to apprehend or do their job, something needs to change.
Yeah, yeah.
Something
And
needs to change, man. What
because
do you
I
think
mean,
about the fucker? Like, um, let me not call him a fucker, but the cop, one of the cops posting like beach pictures on the beach in Florida saying enjoying my time off. Who the fuck do you think
I
you are?
know, like if you're under the
Like,
limelight, like for an assault like that, like you're not like it's just people that again it put into power, like these bad people that are put in a position of power and abusing it. Like I think I don't think he meant to kill her, but to do some douche shit like that to be like, oh, I'm enjoying my time. Like no, like what the fuck are you talking about? Like why are you posting that knowing that you are under people's like microscope right now and they're looking at everything you do?
yeah.
Like
So
why?
hot take here. Hot take. What do you feel about it? Do you feel that they should be all be arrested?
I don't think so. And here's my reasoning why. So from the beginning, there was a lack of communication. Person was in custody. They didn't relay that someone does have to be at least fired. I don't think they should be arrested because we're human. We're going to make mistakes. That's just what happens. Now with the no knock warrant, whenever they insert, they should have announced themselves. Whether or not they did, the boyfriend didn't hear them or stated that they didn't. So that's another way they were wrong. Whenever they came in, the boyfriend fired on them and they fired back. Should they have done 20 rounds? Probably not. But I am if I'm a police officer, I go into a place where I'm legally allowed to be in. According to documentation, whether they give me permission or not, I'm allowed to be on this premises as ordered by the courts that I'm allowed to be here. So you fire upon me, my job is to make sure that people around me are safe, so I'm going to find a way to subdue you, whether that's shooting you in the leg or firing my weapon or what have you. So that exchange, of course, there was a collateral damage with Breonna Taylor. They should have rendered the aid. So I think that the fact that they didn't render aid, they should be fired. I don't know about being arrested unless it's like, oh, they're due to negligence. This is why she died. Then we could talk about that. But without that being in play, yeah, the people that were involved should be fired. But I don't know who should be arrested. That's the biggest thing. Like, because it wasn't out of malice that they killed her. It was because of collateral damage whenever they were firing back at the boyfriend.
So, this is what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that the investigator or whoever that filed for the warrant, he was just doing his job. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the ins, and I really want to talk to someone in a police department. I've emailed multiple people and they just won't talk to me. It's so
Yeah.
annoying. Because I just want to better understand this and have like a firm opinion on this. But
Mm-hmm.
let's just put as my scope of knowledge now. I feel like that guy probably should not be moved or put on administrative leave. I think he was just doing his job
Mm-hmm.
for the other cops to execute the orders. He's kind of like a paper pusher in my mind. Hey, bitch, go file this warrant. Oh man, do I get to go on a ride along? No, bitch. That's
Yeah.
that's just how I look at it with him. So he's like minute. He does not matter.
Yeah.
Now the three individuals, the only reason why, because I can say, let's say I'm gonna subscribe to, like, they did announce, they bust down the door, said Louisville, Kentucky Police Department, blah blah blah, hands up, right? Let's say they all said it at the same time and it just wasn't clear. Whatever. I can. You're not in the wrong there. Where you're in the wrong is when you fired 20 rounds on self defense. That is the right. But in my mind, when you did not render aid, like, that's a big thing. If that's
Yeah.
true, where she wasn't dead on site and she sat there for 5 to 20 minutes, wherever or in between, and you did not render aid, you did not call an ambulance at like boom right then and there, you just killed somebody and
Yeah.
you should be convicted for murder. I don't know what degree of murder, but you should. And
Yeah.
I think that's the justice that we're looking for. And dude, honestly, there should be some like crazy suspension for the body cam thing. They should be some time in jail. There should be some red flag on their record. Be like, they cannot be a cop again. This can't be a suspension and whatever. Because if you're so caught in the weeds where you don't turn on your body cam to record this altercation or the event, you are not a well trained cop. Like, you're not. There should be some muscle memory where like pop, boom, we're about to go, boom, pop it.
But I
Just
wonder if
muscle
there's
memory.
any like stipulation against them turning on body cams during certain events. I want to, and that would be good to like talk to a cop and see like are there any stipulations of why you wouldn't turn it on?
Yeah.
Because there may be a reason why they didn't. Like
Yeah, it
they're
might be like, hey, dude, you only got 16 gigs. You haven't
yeah
got the 32 gig packets in yet.
yeah
But I don't know. I really feel like some people should do some jail time, honestly, because if they're not rendering anything,
yeah. I
that's
think that's
huge. And then like,
they
dude, the
didn't.
body cam thing is crazy too. Like, how can they not rule that as like tampering or destroying evidence?
Hmm.
Sure, the evidence does not. The evidence was never. It never existed, but it didn't exist because you made a misstep.
Yeah.
Because clearly, why would the chief of police be forced to resign or let go if that wasn't a misstep? So clearly, this is stating that that body cam footage the body cam should have been turned on and everything should be recorded
Mhm.
and annotated down. It's very troubling. And to see that fucker on that Instagram post, dude, that fucking had my blood running, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Like that's just in bad taste. Like whether he meant it against like everything that's going on or not, like if I were, let's say I'm that cop and I got put on ministry, like the last thing I'm doing is going on social media.
dude, I'm
That's the
I'm in
last
home.
thing I'm home. I'm focusing on my family. I'm getting myself prepared for what's about to come. I'm not gonna be at the beach posting pictures, yada yada. Like I'll still spend time with my kids and do this and that, but it's gonna be very private. I'm not gonna be on the beach posting dumb shit that could be misinterpreted. Like that's just me as a smart individual.
I understand, man. Well, another great topic, or not great, but another great, as in a sense of it's a topic
A
that
good
we can talk
discussion.
about
Yeah.
and we can grow from it. We can look at this and everything. You got any final words before we wrap this thing up?
Um. No, not really. I mean, I hope that more evidence comes through and we could figure out what really happened, and hopefully there is someone that can face justice, if especially if they didn't render the aid and they did it just because they're being negligent. Then yeah, someone should definitely face charges if they're being negligent.
All right. Well, let me do the closing statement and we can wrap this up. All right, guys, that was the coffee time for the week. Again, we always say this: you are what you listen to. Now, that's some people. I've actually some people's talked to me about that statement. It's like I disagree. It's a blanket statement. When we say you are what you listen to, we want you to understand that at one point you're going to listen to something and you're going to choose to believe it or not. You need to break it down. You need to challenge it, and not as challenging as like I need to look at every fine detail to figure out if I agree with this or not. No, just really don't believe the tabloids or what you're listening to. Don't repeat things. That's what we're saying. Don't listen to us. Go to your friend and be like, hey, this and this with the Breonna Taylor situation, this is what happened. Don't regurgitate what you listen to. Challenge it. So you are what you listen to, but you're also not, if that makes any sense. Now, a few questions for you guys in the comment sections. And just DM us on Instagram at coffee or whiskey. The link will be in the description. What is justice for Breonna Taylor, knowing what's going on right now? What is the justice that needs to be done? Do you believe that all three cops or all four individuals that were involved in the case should be apprehended and face a judge for it, or do you believe just the three? Or what is the stick here? Is it the not providing the body cam footage, not turning it on, not rendering aid, or not executing the no knock warrant correctly? Who knows? There's a lot of different information out there, and we would love to hear from you guys. Till next Thursday, like we always say, you are what you listen to. Goodbye.